Okay, hello friends. This podcast is of extremely important implications because it comes to explain some things about the situations that is going on now, and to explain about the things going on in the Middle East, but also how it reflects on Europe, on the United States, and the rest of the Western world as we know it. Okay, because as you know, on last week it was horrendous. I won't even call it anymore terrorist attacks on the state of Israel, but it goes way beyond just a terrorist attack. It was literally an invasion, a jihadi invasion of the southern part of Israel. Now, when you see this in the media today, when it is presented in your networks, in your media networks and so on, it is presented as something that has to do with the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. And this is a very dangerous way of presenting it, which of course has many reasons. Some of them has to do with the fact that your media is extremely cautious, not just cautious, and I would even almost say biased when it comes to this subject, to show you a deranged presentation of how these things really apply to you. Okay, so this broadcast has nothing to do with Israel. It has nothing to do with the way you view Israel, or the way you view the Palestinian-Israeli conflict or whatever. It has to do with the way you want to see Europe, with the way you want to see the United States, with the way you want to see the Western world in which you live in, and I guess if you want to continue living in having these kind of values as it has. And therefore, I want to present you to a completely different view of this event, on the way that it reflects on Europe. Okay? Now, the first point I want to make is, okay, so first of all, as you know, there was many demonstrations all over the world, in England, in Dublin, in Belgium, in the United States. Okay, maybe not exactly these pictures, but that's more or less the spirit of the things. And these are not peaceful demonstrations. Okay, not entirely peaceful demonstrations. They are very violent. You need to remember that they are being done at the end of the day in the center of European cities, voicing support for a side in this equation that has literally butchered, slaughtered, killed, and raped thousands of people in one day. Okay, so just this fact really scare the population of the Western world that want to continue to live according to their values. Okay, values, for instance, in which you cannot go in the middle of the street and rape and kill people. So, how should we view it? Okay, how should we view what is going on? The Western media, since the beginning of the whole story, has always presented to you in Europe the situation as an equation, as a conflict between two distant sides that somehow live in the Middle East and are in conflict between each other. And it's like a chess game or a boxing game or whatever, and you're just the observers. In our time, 2023, this is no longer the case. This is not the way the Palestinian-Israeli conflict was in the 1990s. It's not the same way as it has been in the 1980s, okay, with Arafat and so on. In our day and age, the issue reflects deeply on the Western world. And in this conflict, when you choose the sides, it's no longer who do I prefer, who do I put my gamble on, who do I think philosophically is correct or not, who is the occupier and who is the occupied, who is the offensive and who is the defending part. The question here now needs to be a pragmatic question. Who is on your side and who is not? Who you personally are afraid of? Who is your enemy? Okay, who you are afraid that will harm you personally amongst these two sides, because they're coming over to you. You see, Europe has long experience with Jews. Okay, Jews have lived in Europe since the exile of the Jewish nation from its own homeland, and the Europeans have more or less experience of hundreds, if not thousands of years with Jews. And as far as we know history, it will go without saying, Europeans are not concerned that Jews will kill them. Okay? Even if they think that, let's say, Israel is an occupying force in the Middle East, assuming that this is a legitimate idea, no European in the world will believe that Israel will come and occupy him. I don't think there's any European in the world that is concerned that Israel would send the IDF and now, occupy France. Okay, it's not a realistic idea. Okay? Israel is confined to a very, very tiny spot within the world, geographically, and that's where it is. Just like France is in France, Israel is in Israel. Okay? Now, your opinion on Jews or on Israel or on this region of the world, be it whatever it will be, but nobody in Europe or the United States thinks that Israel as a country with its military is posing a direct threat to him. Now, look on the other hand. Look at Hamas. Do you think that Hamas, for instance, does not pose a threat towards you? Do you think that the kind of worldviews Hamas holds and the kind of jihad that it is ingrained within its doctrine, do you not think that it poses a threat to you? Do you understand the implication of this kind of support that a terrorist organization like Hamas has all over Europe is not a threat for Europe? So from now on, when you choose a side within the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, you need to think who is on your side and who is not. It becomes really pragmatic. It's a completely different question. It's no longer a question of morals. It's a question of pragmatic survival. Do you choose the side that defends and upholds the same values like you? Forget about it. There are Jews and Europe is Europe, yeah? Europe is not Jewish countries, yes? But the values are very similar. Values of democracy, liberty, more or less equality between people. Equality, clear. But on the other hand, Israel is fighting in the forefront of the fate of the whole Western world. And this is something that needs to be clear. Now, you will say, no, it's not true. These demonstrations are for Palestine, are not for support of the Hamas. But there is something you need to know about these events. Okay? The events that happened last week, even though the people in Europe are not raising Hamas flags, they are Hamas supporters. And there is something a bit subtle about the Middle East that is really crucial to know. Within the Middle East, there is not one Palestinian group, unified Palestinian group, but rather there are two different political groups within the so-called the Palestinian people. Okay? One of them is the PLO. The flags of the PLO are these flags that you see in Europe. Okay, the green, black, white, and red flags. But contrary to the fact that this is what you are seeing now in this demonstration, the current conflict that Israel has is not with the PLO. It is not with the Palestinian Authority. The Palestinian Authority resides currently within the West Bank. The West Bank is currently not in confrontation situation with Israel. It is more or less currently sitting peaceful. And the confrontation is in Gaza. Gaza is in the other side of Israel, where Hamas is located. And Hamas is not a strictly Palestinian organization. It is an Islamic jihadi, and when I say Islamic, I must confine. It is, God forbid, not to say that this represents Islam in any way, or that Islam is by its nature radical and so on. But the version that Hamas holds is the most radical, fundamentalist, jihadi version of Islam on planet Earth. And this is what you see support for within Europe. Because you see, Israel is a tiny country, and the Palestinian population is really not big within the context of, if you compare it to the whole Europe. So all the people that you see there demonstrating for Palestine, these are not all Palestinians. It cannot be. If you will take all the people that demonstrated in the last few weeks within the world, you will get maybe a few times the Palestinian population altogether. These people are predominantly Muslims from within Europe, coming from all sorts of countries, and other political sects that join them in a very weird way. Political sects that could be atheist or communist or radical left wing or radical right wing, Christians, neo-Nazi groups, and so on. Some of them are in complete contradiction with Islam. The most crazy thing is Ireland. Ireland has extreme support for the Hamas cause. But it is a complete paradox, because the Irish are Christian, predominantly Christian society, Protestant or Catholic depends. And one of the main commodities that Ireland is importing for the whole world, as it is known for, is alcohol brands, like the Guinness beer, like the Irish whiskey, which are known all over the world as top branches for alcoholic products. So how on earth can a nation like the Irish nation be so supportive of the Hamas cause when this radical Muslim organization would execute you if you will be found with a Guinness beer within the confines of Gaza? Execute you. The Hamas executed and killed and slaughtered and exterminated the Christian population of Gaza. People don't know this, but they don't understand this because it's not being told to them by the media. This terror group of Hamas is not just about Jews. It's about everybody that is not them. That's the kind of support you get, because these kind of people play with fire. You see past IRA activists, past Irish liberation movements and so on, and they identify with Palestine, for instance, because they think that it resembles their own struggle for independence with respect to England. It has nothing to do with it. The current conflict between radical Islam, which is the exact opposite of what the Irish find dear, and the Western world. And people in Europe should be very, very careful from not taking the wrong sides or seeing this crucial historical point in a wrong way. Not because it might reflect badly on Israel, but because it might reflect very, 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 very badly on Europe. It might very, very reflect badly on the United States. These things is not explained to you by your media, partially because part of your media is bought by radical Muslim groups and by a lot of money invested in this, in you not knowing the full picture. So the only way for you to get real information is like through channels like this that are unbiased. They're not paid to give you information, biased information. Okay? So, for instance, one fact okay, fact, that is simply a fact. It's nothing to do with interpretation. Is the written declaration of Hamas themselves regarding their intention in the long term. What do Hamas truly want? Okay, so thankfully for them, in 1988, the Hamas leaders that established this radical jihadi fundamentalist movement within Gaza wrote a pamphlet that declares their objectives for the movement in the future. And people should read this pamphlet. It literally clearly declares what they want. So first of all, let me show you who the people who wrote it are. Okay. So I won't show you all of them, just show you an example, okay? So this person was called the Sheikh Ahmad Yassin, and he was one of the founding members of Hamas. Okay, that's him. You can see the picture. Most people know that he was crippled, but they falsely assume that he was crippled by Israel. This is not true. He became crippled by a failed soccer game that he ended in an accident that turned him crippled for his own life, for the rest of his life. And the remarkable thing is that the chair that he was sitting on for all of his life was donated to him by Israel. Okay, so he's not crippled by some Israeli bombing or attack or I don't know, occupation or whatever. The chair that he was sitting on was donated to him by Israel. But he was extremely radical Muslim. And he wrote, together with other collaborators, the so-called 1988 Charter of Hamas Movement. This is when the Hamas movement began. And the relevant paragraphs on this charter that have to do with our subject, and with the subject of the faith in Europe and so on, is the clear declaration that for Hamas, Palestine is only the first stage. Okay? It's contrary to the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization, that was right now was not exactly established by Arafat, but Arafat is the face and the representative, and also the PLO flags that are typically seen in Europe. Hamas is something completely different. Okay, for them, Palestine, or the land of Israel, as it is called in the Bible and in the Quran and truly in Islam, okay, is not the final goal. Just to give you an example of how the Hamas flag looks like. This is the Hamas flag. Now, these flags you will never see in Europe, but this is the true flags of the entity Israel currently is in struggle against and is in war against. And the reason why you never see it in Europe is two. First of all, it is illegal in Europe because Hamas is a terror organization. So if people would start raising Hamas flag and in Europe, in London, in Belgium, in Paris, it will be clear to people that they are terror supporters. So as an excuse, they take the PLO flag. Okay? And the second reason is that for the Europeans, the PLO flag is more easy to digest. And in this sense, Hamas took the PLO flag as a parasitic organization, as a parasitic movement using the Palestinian liberation movement for its own Islamic radical goals. Because originally, the flag of the Palestinians, this flag that you see in Europe, had nothing to do with religion. It had only to do with nationalism. It was a secular movement. And Hamas is now using the Palestinian liberation movement, or the Palestinian flag, as a parasitic entity, terror entity, in order to advance its own Islamic jihadi goals within the whole world, not just in Israel. For Hamas, it has nothing to do just with Jews. It has nothing to do just with the land of Israel or Palestine. It has to do with the whole world. Now, you can say that you do not believe me, but you can ask ChatGPT yourself. You can get an unbiased answer from an AI. This will not lie to you. Okay, it's just objective. So you can ask him the following question. According to the Hamas 1988 Charter, does the organization aspire for worldwide Islamic domination? So you need to understand, when you in Europe support in the current conflict between Israel and Hamas, the side of Hamas, under the pretense, under the false idea that the lie that you are supporting the Palestinian people, you are actually giving a hand to the takeover of your own country by radical Islamic jihadi fundamentalist movement that is similar to ISIS. It's insane to say that, but you are opening the door for your own enemy. You are manipulated to do so. Okay, it's extremely dangerous situation. And the people in Europe are maneuvered to do this by disinformation. By the way, such disinformation, psychological warfare, is a part, in the view of certain doctrines, of jihadi fundamentalist doctrine, as part of the requirements of jihad. And God forbid, I am not referring to Islam. You know what? I will not even call this kind of fundamentalism Islam. And as a result, you see that currently a large portions of the Islamic world or the Arab world do not want anything to do with Hamas. Look at it. Gaza has borders not just with Israel. It has borders also with Egypt. Egypt has closed the borders with Hamas. They do not want anything to do with them. Abu Mazen, from the Palestinian Authority, the head of the Palestinian Authority, wants nothing to do with Hamas because they've killed his own people many times before. They slaughtered Palestinians. That's why they are isolated. Also, the Palestinian Authority itself in the West Bank wants Hamas isolated. They understand that they are not Palestinians. They are just using the Palestinian cause for their own agenda, which is just a stepping stone for the establishment of worldwide Islamic domination. No, again, I will refrain. I will not call it Islam. I will call it fundamentalist jihadi domination from the worst kind. The kind of jihadi domination that believes that it is allowed to rape and kill and slaughter anyone that is not a Muslim. It's not just about Jews or Israelis. It's about Palestinians which are not Muslims, whether they be Christians or secular, Arabs, Christians, Europeans, Americans, you name it. Whatever they've done in Israel, they will do anywhere else in the world if they would be given the opportunity. It's extremely dangerous. And some portion of the people that you see demonstrating within Europe are believing in this doctrine. You need to understand how dangerous the situation is. So let's see what ChatGPT says. Yes, the answer is yes. Hamas is interested in worldwide jihadi domination. What they done in the south of Israel, they want to do everywhere in the world. That's why they need to be abolished. That's why this dangerous. It needs to be completely abolished, and every person that the Western world and the values of the Western world is dear to him must stand as clear as possible on this side. It's no longer whether you support Israel or Palestine. It's whether you support the Western free world, or even the moderate Islamic world, or whether you support completely insane jihadi worldwide fundamentalist rule, which has no boundaries whatsoever. It's a cult of death. So yes, the answer is yes. They are interested in worldwide domination. The organization, the charter of 1988, yes, according to the Hamas 1988 charter, the organization articulates aspiration for a broader Islamic agenda beyond the immediate Palestinian territories. Do you understand what it means? It means that when you in the West are being lied to think that this is just an Israeli-Palestinian conflict, you need to understand that you are being lied to. It is the first stepping stone in order to eventually take over the whole world, starting from Europe and the United States and going then forever. So why is Palestine so important? Because these organizations believe that once they will have dominion, God forbid, over Jerusalem, from there they will be able to have domination over the rest of the world. So when you in Europe contemplate of giving domination to this kind of forces that say that Palestine is occupied or whatever, it's no longer Arafat that done this for national reasons. It's if you want to give fuel to a radical fundamentalist jihadi groups that believe that once they will get control over the so-called territories of Palestine, from there they would be able to institute a new caliphate that would eventually take over the world by the power of the sword, by the power of spreading death and violence all throughout the world. What they done in the south of Israel, they want to do all over the world. So that's the bitter truth of it. And you in Europe are being manipulated to think otherwise, to think that it is a moral issue about genocide in Palestine and so on. It's not what it's about. It's not what it's about. This is part of the views of Muslims, of jihadists, to use a tactic that is called in Arabic taqiyya. It means manipulation, mind games, mind manipulation, disinformation, the spread of disinformation on your enemies. Europe is viewed by them as the enemy, not less than Israel. And by aspiring to get world domination, they want to use the European moral against them. They want for the Europeans to use their moral values against them. And that's why you need to protect yourself by knowing the truth. They want your countries also. They want to rape your women also. They want to kill your children also. They want to abduct your elderly also. It's not just about Jews or Israel or occupation or whatever. They think you occupy Europe. They think London is occupied. They think Paris is occupied. They think Washington is occupied by the infidel, atheistic rulership or whatever they have in their mind. They want the whole Western world gone. They truly believe in it. For instance, I proceed a bit forward because the point is clear. References to the Day of Judgment suggest a broader ideological foundation related to the eventual triumph of Islam. Okay, that is the version of Islam that, I would not even call it Islam, because I said many times that the kind of doctrines Hamas follow is not even Islamic. It is a certain mutation, deformation of Islam that is, true Islamic scholars will tell you that it is complete heresy that they believe. It is not Islam. It is fake Islam, which is extremely jihad. Now, you need to understand that when we are talking about Gaza, there is no way of distinguishing between Hamas itself as an organization and the society there. The society there, in its majority, is believing in these doctrines as part of the culture. Hamas is not an outer external organization that grew out from an external dominion imposed upon the population of Gaza from the outside. It is not true. It is a representation of the true beliefs of this population from very young age. It is almost impossible to detach Hamas from the rest of the population. It is a population that breeds this kind of doctrines, that manufactures them, that educates for them. Every person that is a Hamas activist has a whole family that is pushing him to do so, from parents and mothers and grandparents and education system that is all invested in order to breed and educate and inspire this kind of beliefs. It's not like technical thing that you can just remove Hamas and then this will go away. It's simply what exists as a living reality within this population, which makes this population itself extremely dangerous. As a living human collective that represents the most opposite worldviews than what belong to the 21st century. Even the heads of the most leading Islamic countries understand this. They understand that this kind of radicalism is inhibiting also the state to be glorious Islamic states as in the days of past. It is a hindrance to the safety of the whole world. And that is the only way in which it can be viewed. Now, practically, how exactly to deal with this, and what are the methods, and what are the practical abilities of the whole world to deal with this danger, is a matter of further contemplation. From a spectrum of military operations up to some peaceful arrangement. But what for sure will not help the West is to blindly support out of disinformation this kind of doctrines. And what can help everybody is knowledgeable understanding of what is in front of us, and getting decision based on true rational information. It's the only way to go. So, dear friends, have a good night, and out of prayer that God, it doesn't matter in which language you refer to him, if you refer to him as to God or as Allah, will protect the whole world from mistakes, from the devil. I don't know how else to call it. By the way, if we are already in this point, there is a very interesting thing that is not directly related to this broadcast, but maybe somehow yes. But it's maybe a good way to end it. You know, contrary to what people are presented, Islam and Judaism are not enemies, not at all. On the contrary, for many years Jews and Muslims lived in coexistence, including in Muhammad's time, the Prophet of Islam. As the Muslim says, Salam alayhi wa salam. And there is much respect in Jewish writings for the religion of Islam. You can find it in many aspects, and also vice versa. Yes, Islam is built and founded on a belief that the leaders of Israel were prophets, were true workers of God, true workers of Allah, right? The Islam speaks with admiration about Ibrahim, and Joseph, Yusuf, and about King Solomon of Israel, the king of Israel, Suleiman, and also about Dawood. The prophet Dawood is in Arabic is King David, king of Israel. Islam and Judaism can easily coexist together. But this version of demonic, jihadi radicalism is the hindrance for this peace of the whole world. In Judaism, one of the names of God is peace, shalom. And Islam is called shalom, salam, right? Salam alaikum. Both religions speak about peace. Now, one thing, speaking about disinformation. Only through disinformation people can believe that this radicalization has a part within the 21st century. Can grow only out of disinformation. Let me show you something remarkable. It can make a huge difference. In order, if people really want peace, to resolve the conflict, they need to spread out this kind of information. In Islam, we all know that the holy book of Islam is the Quran. It's the foundation of Islam. But Islam teaches that there are a few other books which have been sent to humanity before the Quran and are of special spiritual message to humanity that were given by God, by Allah. One of them is called the Zabur. What is the Zabur? The Zabur is the book of songs written by King David, by Prophet Dawood, according to Islam. Salam alayhi wa salam. The Zabur is what we call in the West the Psalms of David. Now, let me show you something, and this is a book that in all Islam doctrines is treated with reverence, with awe, as a book from God, as a book from Allah. Okay? Now, as I told you, the version that Hamas holds, this jihadi version, can be created in the minds of people only throughout this disinformation and the spread of radical violence and hate that hides away everything that hinders their ability to spread hate. Censoring even the holy books. What kind of religious movement can censor its own holy books? Can you take seriously a radical movement that wants to have worldwide Islamic domination but censors its own books? Let's see what is written in the Zabur. Okay, this is, again, a holy Islamic text. Now, naturally, I will not read it in Arabic, partially because, sadly, my Arabic is not in a high enough level for me to read it for you. But thanks God, or thanks to Allah, we have today translation in English. Now, this is not I wrote. This is written. It's an Islamic website, official Islamic website that you can see, or you can even, if you read Arabic, you can go and check it by yourself. Okay, this is what is written in the Zabur. Zabur 121. Just let me show you that this is a really legitimate Islamic website. It's not anything else. Let's see if I can get that. Just a moment. Let's see. Okay. this is the website. Okay, so it's an official Islamic website, and of course you can find it in any. It's not just here. You can find it by yourself. It's an official book. Yeah. A Song of Ascent. I will lift up my eyes to the hills. Where does my help come from? My help comes from Allah, who made heaven and earth. He will not allow your foot to be moved. He who keeps you will not slumber. Behold, he who keeps Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. Allah is your keeper. Allah is your shade on your right hand. So what is written in the Zabur? It's a holy Islamic text. It's written that according to Islam, Muslims believe that God himself, Allah, is the keeper of Israel, as said by the words of the Prophet Dawood, the true Israel. See, Muhammad had, and this is part of the disinformation of evil organizations like Hamas, they twist Islam. When Muhammad is written that he had wars with Jewish tribes, these Jewish tribes were not only unfair or unjust towards Muhammad and towards Islam, they were also not, how would I say it? They were also not righteous and just people in the eyes of Judaism. You can find Jewish texts written about these kind of sects that existed within the Arabian Peninsula at the time of Muhammad, and you can see Jewish texts of rabbis written by rabbis saying that these people were unjust and unrighteous people. So also in Judaism, Jews do not believe that all Jews are the same, that all Jews just from being Jews are righteous. Not at all. Also in Judaism we have the notion of righteous and non-righteous people. A person can be Jew and non-righteous. And the people within the area of Muhammad that he had war with them, he didn't have war with them just because they were Jews. He had war with them because they were unjust people. Okay? Now, beforehand, when Muhammad instituted Medina, it's one of the foundational texts of humanity, right? The Constitution of Medina. You can see how just the Constitution is. It speaks about freedom of religion, coexistence between Jews and Christians and Muslims and so on. Where is all of this? Did it go away? Did not go away. The war he had with the Jews of the tribe of Kainuka, that the radical Muslims so enjoyed to make it into the center of the whole jihadi view, is only after a violation of this specific group of people against him. It's not the whole Jewish nation, because originally Muhammad wanted Islam and Judaism to coexist. And these specific people have violated the contract of the Constitution of Medina. But it's not now has implications over all the Jews in the world or all the Christians in the world. It's not true. And the radical jihadi preachers twist it against the true nature of Islam. Now, as you see, simply in the Zabur itself, Muhammad viewed the Zabur as a holy book. So who from his followers cannot view it as a holy book? They can tell you, no, the times have changed. No. If it was good enough for your honorable prophet, why is it not good enough for you? It is written in the book, in this whole book, that Allah himself is the keeper of Israel. So maybe from Islamic view, the fact that Hamas are bringing such wrath and suffering over the people is because they are trying to fight against Allah himself. From an Islamic point of view, this is a question true Muslims should ask themselves. If it is written that Allah keeps the nation of Israel and is a protector, as it is said by King David himself, by the Prophet Dawood himself, what would it make the ones that carry the name of the Palestinian Goliath and try to fight against this? What would it make them? It would make them enemies of Allah. So the ones that support this kind of terrorism should ask themselves, as God-fearing Are they making the right choice, or are they following the disinformation as it is written in the Muslim text of the Dajjal himself, of the jinn? Anyway, good friends, this was a broadcast that is quite universal. It started from the Western world, and the disinformation spread against it by these evil terror organizations and ended in the Muslim world. And as we see, they are quite close to each other. The war is not between Israel and Palestine. It is not between the Western world and Islam, God forbid. It is between the God-fearing, human and loving people of the world and evil. It's in evil and primitivity. That is what it is. Nothing else. This war can be summarized in the most simplest way we can. Between primitivity and evil, and between good and God-fearing. And I'm not saying that the state of Israel itself is a representation of good, and God forbid that the Palestinians represent evil. I'm not saying this. The question of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is a question by itself. But when I'm referring to whether you as a human being can support Hamas or not, that's the question here now, this time in age 2023. The rest of the questions will be solved. But this central question is extremely, extremely dangerous. No human being can support this kind of radical, fundamentalist regime, whether you are a Muslim or a Western European, even if you're secular. Whether you are supportive of Palestine or supportive of Israel, it doesn't matter at this point. These questions will be settled later, but not with war and violence and terrorism and extermination of people in such a manner. Hamas is a hindrance also for the Palestinians. So, dear friends, wherever you are, have a good night, and let's hope, God willing, Allah willing, we will hear good news.